Welcome to Drinking and Driving. We are live in the last 5 laps of the Pennzoil 400 in Las Vegas. It has been a snooze fest through the second and third stages, but it is definitely picking up here in the last 10. What are your first impressions here, Dick? As we got 4 to go, we're going to kind of narrate this as we go, but what do you think?
Yeah, Tex, we got 4 to go. I'm excited for this finish. It's going to be a shootout between Larson and Reddick. The rest of the field is just playing for third, I think. But Larson and Reddick have a good race on for those two. Looks like a beautiful day out in Vegas. How do you like it out there?
It was freaking awesome. I'm back in the RV right now for the finish of this thing. We wanted to go get started here, but man, is coming down to the wire here. Reddick looks like he has a faster car than Larson. He's definitely gaining on him, and Larson's taking the inside. Reddick always on the outside, and he's going to the outside right now. Turn 3 on lap 3 to go. Stays behind him. Man, yeah. I honestly didn't think it was going to be Larson Reddick. I know that when we talked about this off the air, I was traveling and everything. You were high on Larson. I wasn't necessarily agreeing with that. I know he had a great race last year in Vegas in the fall, but I wasn't high on him, and I was wrong. He's been a fast car.
Yeah, and like I said, I was high on Chevys coming into this week. They won the first two. It looks like they're going to snag the first
Yep,
three for the
1 to go.
season. Yeah, Kyle Larson's pulling away. I think he was kind of just managing Tyler Reddick a little bit, but
Yeah.
he,
What a performance!
he definitely had the best car all day. He won the first stage and second stage, just swept all three. So yeah,
Yeah,
he well deserved.
another win for the Hendrick cars. I mean, I said this on day one. Oh, Reddick almost made a move there in the last 100 yards, but yeah, it's the unofficial results. We're gonna have Larson, Reddick, and I am sorry,
Ryan
I'm
Blaney,
Blaney. Okay,
Chastain, and Ty Gibbs, top five.
yeah. So that was some race. Larson will sweep all the stages and the win. I don't have him in the shootout picks this week. These were done off the air because of the travel. That was Dick's first pick, and he just whooped my ass.
Yep, and that is our side bet fantasy. If you guys are following, I took Kyle Larson and Eric Jones, I believe. And then
Yeah,
you had
I had Byron and LaJoy, and Byron finally made a top 10 appearance at the end. Uh, the unofficial results is he's gonna finish 10. Um, he did not show a good race at all today, really.
yeah,
He was just
LaJoy
there at
looked
the end.
like he was racing well. And if you guys listened to the last episode, he was my underdog pick. He was racing really well until he was racing top 10 all day. And then his tires got bald and he kind of spun out going around a turn and he just never recovered from that. But
Yeah,
LaJoy's looking good all year so far, and that's surprising for me.
yeah. You're right, and he just had that unfortunate crash with I want to say what 30, 40, 50 to go. I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember. Um, but yeah, he had a good car. You know who else had a really good car that just he couldn't catch a break today was Kyle Busch. He was probably a top 3 car, performance all day, and he was so sloppy on pit road today. He
Yeah,
had at least 2 penalties. One for speeding. One his right rear tire changer. He did not get the lug nut on in time. So they ended up having to jack it back up again. And then in the final pit of the day, he was starting to make up from those 2 penalties. Not the last one wasn't a penalty, but mistakes on pit road, and he pulls a little too far in his pit box and has to serve another penalty.
and that was late in the game, and he was competing. He had a shot at maybe winning, and yeah, he had to pass through penalty late, so he ended up getting some laps behind, and that was the day for him.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see if you're Kyle Busch, because he had I mean, it was a spectacular finish last week, don't get me wrong, but he came out on the bottom of that whole exchange. Within 7/100ths of a second from winning, and he ends up getting third there. That is a huge blow in points, and I'm sure when he coming back to his home track of Las Vegas, I'm sure he was really expecting something big here, and just could not get it done. And he wasn't the only sloppy driver on pit road. I mean, Ty Gibbs rough all day. Luckily, he made a push at the end and couldn't make up for it. But uh, tons of overshooting your box, sliding. They were talking about how slick the pit boxes were today, and then this is a really difficult track to get onto pit road without speeding because you have to take turn 3 slow all the way into the end of that turn, and you know you, you don't have time to come out of the turn before you slow down, and it was a rough day for a lot of people when it comes to that.
Yeah, and Willie B had, I don't know if you saw it, but he was driving around and a trash bag came and got stuck to his front. So he had to make an unplanned pit stop to take that off, and that cost him too because he was pushing up there. He was in contention as well. He had a good race up until then, and then just never recovered from that. And then
Yeah.
Bubba Wallace had a lug nut issue on pit road. They had to cut it off, and then he was many laps behind. Couldn't recover. So yeah, that's a blow to my picks. If you followed him last week to beat Ty Gibbs had a heck of a race though, top 5. But if you did follow my picks, I had Chevy to win, Kyle Larson. So you would have went 1-1, and with the odds, you would have about broke even. So if you're tracking, I'm 4-3 on the year with Dick's picks, and we're just gonna keep it rolling.
Yeah. I will just in general, I loved the back-to-back super speedways to start the year. You go straight from Daytona right to Atlanta, and then I always thought that Vegas was a fast track, and it is, but when you put it back up against those two in a row, you get to Vegas and you're like, wow, this was a stinker. Um, and
Yeah,
I almost think that we needed to do something a little different here because I don't know. I was just so excited about the last two races that this one just didn't didn't have the excitement that the last few had for me. Um,
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you had the two super speedways to start off, and then you have an intermediate track, which, I mean, that's, you're expecting kind of a super speedway feel even at an intermediate track. So I feel like the schedule should kind of, if you're going to do back to back super speedways to start, you got to do something completely different and go just small track next,
yeah,
just so to get that super speedway feel out of the way.
yeah. And don't get me wrong. I love most races in the NASCAR series, and Vegas is a good one. Love the location. It's probably what 20-30 minutes from the strip. Always a really good time. Get a good turnout, and the weather's always great. Um, and you know what? You have fast cars. I don't know why I'm complaining about 185 miles an hour, but you just put them back up against two of the most fun tracks in the series, and of course it's gonna look like that.
I
But
agree.
we have Phoenix coming up. Actually similar to the Vegas track. We're gonna go intermediate again. Um, what are your first impressions on next week?
Yeah, I mean, Chevy's killing it, Hendrick's killing it. So I don't know. I think Kylar could back this up. I think Willie B, he's great there too. I think one of those two have a good shot at it. And it's hard to look away from those two because I mean, Willie B already won, Kylar already won. Joey Logano is looking good too. He didn't have a great day today, but he finished pole yet again. So I think he's doing great at qualifying. He's ready to get another win.
Yeah, we're exactly 1 week from the start of the Phoenix race, a 1 mile oval track, little shorter, but I would say similar type feel. Um, and you're right. I think a lot of what you saw today is gonna come about next week. I think it's a similar game plan for all the manufacturers. You didn't see a ton of manufacturers help other manufacturers today, but you definitely saw the big advantage of the Chevys just on maybe their package today. And I don't know. I think we are in for a good beginning of the year. We already had two great races, and I'd say today was a pretty good race. Um, Man, there's some points already coming to play.
Yeah,
You
and
see some front runners.
I will say the racers got to fix their pit row crew penalties and mishaps because going from now on, it's going to be hard to recover from those. I mean, you could get away at Daytona and at Atlanta. Super speedways in general, you could kind of get away because there's more cautions. But as you see, as like today, there's a lot of green flag long runs, and it's just hard to recover if you have a penalty.
Right, only one caution in or all of stage two. You're right. Green flag laps, green flag pits. You got to be better. There's no room for any mistakes when it comes to that. And it's actually a hard week for making too much change with two back-to-back West Coast races. A lot of the the race teams are based off of the East Coast and in the South, and they're just not going to make it all the way back. Some of the personnel will, but the haulers, the cars, they're not going to make it their way back all the way to the East Coast. So it's a difficult week. It's a short week with all the travel and just not a lot of opportunity to make big changes. So I think a lot of them were just sloppy, and it's going to come down to your mentality and discipline to get back in there and just be better. But I'm excited for Larson. I thought he had a lot to prove this week. He had a few poor races, I would say, and he's always someone you can expect to win. There's not really many races that I'd count him out. And like I said, I was a little surprised to see him up there, but I don't know. Thinking back, I'm kind of an idiot because I should never count Kyle Larson out.
No, yeah, you can never count him out. It was just a matter of time for him to break the ice this season, and yeah, I think he's going to get a few more under his belt, maybe even go back to back next week.
That's right. Now, there are some big names that have not been up at the top at all this year. And
one comes to mind is Chase Elliott for me. I really hope he had another quiet day today. I think next week he's a previous winner at that track, so maybe he could get something going. I think he won back in 2020. So I'm excited to see him go out there, but really he's not making any noise right now, and I hope he could really get back on track because he is the people's driver. He's one of my favorite drivers.
Yeah, he did have the stage win in Atlanta, which was basically the peak of his season so far, and I think this is the same week that he ended up breaking his leg last year. So I think he finished the first three races. So you could already say that he's in front of where he was last year, but for a Hendrick car and a former Cup Series champion, you cannot expect that from him. He needs to be up here. Kyle Larson actually just popped his bottle of champagne in Winner's Circle, and Chase should be there. Chase needs to get back up there, or I don't know. I think it's
He's
not
one of
like
the
he's going
worst
to get
Hendrick
dropped.
boys right now.
That's right.
No, yeah. I mean, he's not going to get dropped because it is Chase Elliott, but
Right. Yeah. So going into Phoenix, we are going to do a short short episode today, mostly focusing on this past race and a little preview for next week. But we'll jump back on for a real short episode later in the week when we get back to home base. But real quick, the top 5 drivers last year at Phoenix in the spring race. You have Byron, Blaney, Reddick, Larson, Harvick. Obviously, Harvick's not going to be there, but I I have a hard time thinking that it could be anyone else. Those are some top drivers. They were well in front of everyone else. Um,
Yeah, I liked
Larson,
Reddick. Reddick with number 2 today, and I think he has a good shot at it next week.
yeah, Larson led 201 of those 317 laps last year. Uh, Very good chance of going back to back, I would say. Just a quick car. Like I said, can't count him out, but he's definitely going to be one of the favorites going into Phoenix. Um,
Yeah, and his pit crew doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes either, and that just goes to show like that's why he's a winner. It
right.
takes two to tango, a good driver and a good pit crew.
Yeah. Someone that I think that also hasn't made a splash yet this year that is a contender of a driver is Seabell. And I think that this is somewhere he can make that splash.
Yeah, he was running middle of the pack, maybe top 10 for a little bit today. His tires also went bald and he spun out on a turn as well.
Yeah.
So he
And you know
couldn't
what?
recover.
You could say that that could be a little bit of a a pit crew issue. But honestly, sometimes that just happens in
Yeah,
racing.
that's just racing. Get a little loose on the turns and can't control it.
Yeah. So you're still favoring the Chevys next week?
Yeah, and I don't know. I like the Toyotas today as well. So I think those two manufacturers next week. I think Toyota has a little bit of improvements to make. So maybe they could get something going. But yeah, Chevys just have the better drivers as well. So I had to go with the drivers of the Chevys.
Yeah. Well, I know we want to make this a really quick one. Um, but yes, we'll come back with some more information recapping once we digest this race and lead up to next week. And we definitely want to get you our latest picks for our shootout and then how you can make some money with Dick's picks. But we will finish up today with our shootout standings today. I know you already heard how much of an ass kicking I took from Kyle Larson blowing up both stages and a win. That's what 30 points right there. No, that's 55 points right there that you're gonna go up. We did not talk about last week.
That's about how many points I had in all my drivers combined on week 1.
Yeah, really. But last week I took another hit. It ended up being 42 to 51. So I was already down by 18. Let's add 9 more. I'm down by 27 going into today, and I haven't done the full breakdown just because the official results haven't come out. But just before we go into um, places, you're going to be up 55, and I have a pretty good feeling that that gap is going to grow. And you have Eric Jones, who did he finish the race?
Yeah, he was like 14th, I think, 13, 14.
Okay, yeah. So that's a pretty good pick. I had Byron, LaJoy, and Todd Gilliland. LaJoy we know didn't finish the race, so that's going to be an automatic -10. Um, and then Byron and Gilliland weren't really up there, so we're we're gonna have a pretty big gap here. But
Yeah.
it's a
And my
long
last
season.
driver was Harrison Burton, I believe, and not sure how well he did. He might have not even finished either. So, but Kyle Larson pulling me
Yeah,
out the victory today.
let's see if the official results went through. Um, at least to get an idea of where we are. Uh, Gilliland ended up 24th. That's actually better than I thought.
Okay.
So, that's not bad. Burton 30, LaJoy 32, and who was your last?
Harrison Burton,
Did I already say Burton?
Eric Jones.
Oh, Eric Jones. Where is he?
He's
Oh,
like 13 or 14.
yeah, he was a 14. So, yeah, with that being said, we'll give you a final update on week 3 of the Cup Series. For those of you that are looking to be a little nostalgic, don't forget, next week in Phoenix, Frankie Muniz makes another appearance in the Xfinity Series on Saturday night. I want to say 4:30. Tune in for that. Let's get a little bit of Malcolm in the Middle going, and maybe he can make a splash in the Cup or in the Xfinity Series. I know he just eked his way through trucks, and he's getting his chance, and I'm excited for him.
I'm excited too. I mean, I love the nostalgia of Malcolm in the Middle, so I'm always going to root for him, even though he's not the best driver, but I will be rooting for him.
He's an
He's someone I know now in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. So,
all right. Well, with that being said, we will see you later on in this week, and don't forget, grab yourself a drink and let them drive. We'll see ya.
adios, mofos.